Well, hey guys, in today's video, I'm gonna be sharing with you 10 habits that are ruining your hair. I just brewed up a cup of the Four Sigmatic ground mushroom coffee. I love this stuff. But I wanted to let you guys know that they're currently having their annual summer flash sale. It's going on from June 23rd to June 29th. You can get up to 50% off their products. And if you use my link in the description box, you can get an additional 15% off. This is an amazing time to stock up on all the Four Siggy goodness. And yeah, the sale won't come around again until November. So you definitely don't want to miss out. A habit that can lead to increased hair breakage and fragility is shampooing the entire length of your hair. Instead, you should direct the shampoo just to your scalp. That's really the main purpose of shampooing, is scalp cleansing. And then when you rinse the shampoo out, the lather will end up coating your strands anyway, and then you can rinse it out. As opposed to doing this number on your hair shaft with the shampoo, that can lead to a lot of frizz and breakage and problems. Another bad habit that's easy to get into when we're pressed for time is not taking the time to condition your hair after shampooing. But this is really important, especially if you have long hair, because the act of shampooing deposits a negative charge on the hair shafts themselves, and this not only contributes to static, poor manageability, but it also ends up causing more breakage and fragility of the hair shaft. Conditioning products end up neutralizing that negative charge on the hair shaft and can reduce that issue of breakage. Many people with short hair can get away without using conditioner. It's more for people with long hair. Those longer strands, they need a little bit more TLC from a conditioner, especially to deal with the issues around shampooing. Another bad habit related to your showering routine is when you get out of the shower, a lot of people will take a towel and towel dry their hair by rubbing the towel on their hair, and this is the worst thing you can do, because when your hair is wet, it's even more fragile. The outer cuticle is really hydrated. It's just more susceptible to agitation, so to speak. Rather than using a heavy towel and rubbing it on the hair shafts, I instead recommend that you take an old t-shirt and just gently wrap your hair up in the old t-shirt. This will help absorb some of the extra water and is much gentler on the hair. Alternatively, you can also use one of those dedicated Turby Twist hair towels. Those work really well too. And the nice thing about both the t-shirt or the Turby Twist towel is that they're lightweight, so they don't end up pulling a lot of weight on your hair that can further contribute to breakage like a big, luxurious towel might. Bad habit number 4 is something we all fall into from time to time in our life, and that is letting yourself get run down. Why does this take a toll on your hair? Well, what ends up happening is that when your body is in stress mode, you're not getting good sleep, you're not nourishing yourself well, you are under a lot of stress and you have those stress hormones surging, your body says, hey, this is not really the time to be growing hair. So what ends up happening is that many of the hairs on your head will shift away from the growing phase into the resting phase, and you will experience what's called a telogen effluvium, aka increased hair shedding. This typically occurs about 3 months after you have gone through either an illness, or maybe you've been crash dieting, or just been under a period of time where you have been under a lot of stress. When we don't manage our stress well, our sleep suffers. Sometimes we make poor choices in terms of nourishing our body. We reach for packaged foods out of stress that aren't really going to fuel you properly, and that leads to more stress hormones, and all of this will just tell your hair cycle to, hey, let's go into sleep mode, and you'll get a lot more of that hair shedding. Not only that, your nutrition is really important for the health of your hair and for building the structural elements of the hair. So when we go through periods of time where maybe we're not eating as well, our hair will really suffer. So having some good habits in place to make sure that you have snacks and healthy meals around you can really help just ensure that this is less likely to happen. Yeah, the foods that nourish us, they not only give us energy, but they really form the building blocks of our hair, skin, and nails. You all know I am a huge coffee enthusiast, but if I'm not careful, I can start to consume too much caffeine. I love it so much. But the Four Sigmatic mushroom coffee, I find that it is so satisfying. I end up drinking less coffee. And I also love that they have these little instant coffees. This is honestly the best instant coffee I have ever had. The mushrooms just bring out the flavor of the coffee and make for a more satisfying cup to really give you that extra energizing kick without overdoing it on the caffeine. I also adore their plant-based protein. I have been a huge fan of the unflavored, and they just came out with a cacao flavor. And I've been putting these in my smoothies. A smoothie is a perfect snack when you don't know what to eat and you're kind of scrambling. The Four Sigmatic protein powder has chia in it and pumpkin seed, and it's also got their mushrooms. But importantly, none of their products actually taste like mushrooms, so if you hate them, don't worry about that. But the protein powder is amazing because it blends in really creamy and really smooth. There's no clumps or anything. I love incorporating mushrooms into my snacks and beverages. Wherever I can get them, they are packed with antioxidants. Four Sigmatic uses mushrooms like chaga, lion's mane, and reishi, which we are learning more and more about every day in terms of their benefits to health and longevity. Now is the time to check out Four Sigmatic. This sale is not going to come around again until November. You can get up to 50% off, plus an additional 15% off when you click the link in my description box. Getting sick, getting an illness, that is another reason to experience a telogen effluvium. If you have a cold, a flu, you develop a fever, that too can lead to a telogen effluvium down the road. So healthy habits go a long way, not only in the health of your hair, but also your nails and your skin. Bad habit number 5 is brushing your hair when it's soaking wet. Never brush your hair or comb your hair like while you're in the shower and your hair is wet. If you have straight hair, always towel dry your hair and make sure that it is pretty much close to dry before you start combing it. You'll find if you have straight hair that is relatively manageable, a lot of the tangles will actually work themselves out. Now, if you have curly hair, more textured hair, you already know that that's not necessarily gonna work for you. People who have curly hair or textured hair have better outcomes in terms of maintenance of their curls if they comb their hair while it's damp. So it's okay to do that while it's damp. Just make sure it's not soaking wet. And when you comb the hair, use a wide tooth comb. Don't underestimate how damaging a blow dryer can be to your hair. The heat can damage the proteins in your hair, make it more susceptible to frizz and of course breakage and hair loss. If you use a blow dryer, always use the lowest heat setting. I know that takes a lot longer. And try to not blow dry your hair every time. Try and do an air dry as often as you can and balance it out that way. And never hold the blow dryer too close to your hair. Try and keep it about 10 centimeters away from your head. It actually has been shown to reduce the burden of damage. And always make sure that your hair dryer, that you're moving it in a continuous fashion. Don't underestimate the extent of damage to the hair that can come about from prolonged ultraviolet radiation exposure, like when you're outdoors all day, for example. What can happen is UV actually damages the protein structure in the hair, rendering it more vulnerable. The pigments in our hair protect to a certain extent from ultraviolet radiation, but they can actually be damaged from UV. If you're somebody who has color treated hair or hair that has been processed chemically, like permed or straightened, it's even more vulnerable to ultraviolet radiation damage. UV also can generate free radical damage in the hair, so you have to remember that. If you're going to be outside for a prolonged period of time, I recommend putting your hair up and covering it with a cap to protect your hair. Especially if you have blonde hair or red hair, it's even more vulnerable to ultraviolet radiation mediated damage. In order to protect your hair from ultraviolet radiation, beyond using a hat, the other thing is to be mindful of how long you are outside, and also try and avoid being outside, at least for a prolonged period of time, when the sun is at its peak. That typically occurs around midday. Chlorine in pool water certainly can damage your hair even more. So if you swim in a swimming pool, I encourage you to wear a swim cap to protect your hair from the chlorine. The other thing to do is as soon as you get out of the pool, rinse your hair immediately. After you rinse your hair and you rinse the pool water out, then use a special shampoo that is aimed at removing the excess chlorine from the hair. They sell these swimmer shampoos that can be helpful for that. And then after you rinse out the shampoo, definitely use a conditioner. So that's a good way to take care of your hair around swimming so you enjoy the pool without being too harsh on your hair. Number 9 is your hairstyle. Wearing tight hairstyles, really tight ponytails, wearing your hair in a bun that's pulled back really tight. I'm guilty of this myself. It can cause something called traction alopecia. What is that? Well, it's hair loss related to chronic pulling on the hair from tight hairstyles. This most often happens on the temples, but really can happen anywhere. If you use extensions, you can also get traction hair loss in the areas where the extensions are weaved in, or even in the case of being taped on, the weight from the extensions pulling on your hair can cause a traction hair loss. That traction pulls at the hair and you get bald patches. In the early stages, the treatment is essentially stop wearing your hair in tight hairstyles and the hair will slowly return to baseline. But unfortunately, if you put your hair under chronic traction like that, eventually the hair gives up on you and can scar down, and that leads to permanent hair loss. So I recommend wearing loose hairstyles and using ponytail holders if you have long hair that are wrapped in fabric like a scrunchie. That definitely can help reduce the traction on your hair quite a bit. And if you do wear your hair in braids, try and make sure that you're not pulling them too tight. And basically, if it gives you a headache, rethink it. The number 10 habit that people may not be aware of that can damage your hair is using long wear styling products like gels, pomades, mousses, and sprays. These weigh down the hair shaft and make it vulnerable to breakage. They also sometimes have alcohols in them, which can be drying on the hair shaft and lead to even more breakage. Watch out for the long wear hairstyling products and those tight hairstyles. Those are some everyday habits that people have they may not even be aware of that can lead to increased breakage. Poor lifestyle habits can get you into bouts of hair shedding that can be really distressing and hard to navigate. Nobody wants to have their hair coming out in handfuls. That's really a pain. It's hard on your shower drain. It can really be a pain to go through bouts of shedding. So the healthy habits really pay off. Thank you for Sigmatic for sponsoring a portion of today's video. You guys, don't miss out on this sale. I stock up every year come summertime. You can get up to 50% off their products, and if you use my link in the description box, you can get an additional 15% off. The sale is from the 23rd of June to the 29th and will not happen again until November, so take advantage of it now. The Four Sigmatic website is really easy to navigate to. You can just click on shop and you can look for different routines, coffee, protein. And I adore their coffee and all of their products are amazing. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.